Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hi everybody, and welcome to The Garage and the Court of Public Opinion. Now, this eye's playing up again. I'm not clowning around. I mean, they told me it would take about a month for it to settle down, and this is now only 10 days or something, so I've just got to be wary of the lights and whatnot. So if you don't mind, I might wear these a little bit. Pete,
yes.
People keep on sending messages about your spelling on the garage door.
Yes, well,
I don't know, because I can't spell. I couldn't pick up any mistakes.
let me be honest. Sometimes I make typos.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, we all do that.
And it takes a long time to correct it.
Yeah.
So I sort of hope that they slip through and people don't notice it, but obviously they do.
I'll go along with that. Anyway, I'm not one to nitpick.
Well, I'll take the blame. That's fine.
No.
It's not Jeremy that puts the garage door up.
I'm quite happy to put my hand up and say I can't spell. I was away that day when they were teaching spelling. Ah, dear, oh dear. We've had quite a weekend. We're recording on Sunday for Monday and Tuesday's program. We've had the race here, the big... what's the name of it again?
Velo,
the Velo 500. Oh, and the F-35 strike fighter went across at 1,000 miles an hour or more. The city's all blocked up, and there are hundreds of thousands of tourists here to look at the race. And anyway, welcome all. It's a kind of a day of celebration, quite out of character with the usual humdrum of good old Adelaide. But I just stayed pretty close to home. It all went over my head, so to speak, along with the F-35. Speaking of things like that, warplanes and so forth, all those very emotional scenes with Jews and the Arabs, the prisoners exchanged, and the freeing of the hostages welcomed home. The good, the relief, the feeling was almost palpable, recognizable. Couldn't we extend this? Are the differences between the Arabs and the Jews such that they can't see that that is no way to live? You know what I see when I look at the chaos that is Gaza? You know what I see? The rubble, the tears, the heartbreak. I see a microcosm of what could so easily spread. Religious hatred, prejudice. All that misery starts with hatred. That's where it all starts. And it's already on our streets. Those demonstrations and those demonstrators, the weaponizing of our children, the senseless slogans and placards and anti-Semitism. After nearly 80 years, Jewish people are again afraid. And they came to Australia with the wonderful ideal that they would never ever have that kind of fear again. And neither should they. We're talking about Australia, not the Middle East. We have to stop this. Got to stop it. And quickly. No more weaponizing of our kids, please. I don't care what the school teachers think or believe. Go out, demonstrate yourself. Couldn't give a damn. The International Day to End Domestic Violence Against Women. I think, sadly, we might need more than just a day. You know that a woman is killed almost every week by a partner or someone she knows or knows her. The elimination of violence to women. There's a lady I want to talk to. We'll get her on the live streaming show, jeremycordeaux.com, on Friday morning. Her name is Kate Fitzgibbon. And she's at Monash University, and she really probably knows more about the subject than anybody else in Australia. I'll try and get her. I mean, I haven't even tried to find her phone number yet, but, you know, I've got a few days. I'll work that up. I think we've got to talk about that. It's a good subject, sad subject. They haven't made a big thing of it, but let me tell you that Meals on Wheels is 70 years old. Happy birthday to Meals on Wheels. Doris Taylor, a name that probably doesn't pop into your mind readily, founded Meals on Wheels back in 1954. She, herself, in a wheelchair. But a very feisty lady. In fact, she was the first woman, or well, actually the first person, to get a motorised wheelchair. And she said, God help any politician that gets in my way with this. She's quite a lady, Doris Taylor. You might look her up. You might find her very interesting. The first recipients, by the way, of a meal on wheels, if that's the right way to put it, the first recipients were Mr. and Mrs. Gross of Semaphore, who received the very first hot meal. And now, Meals on Wheels is all around the world. Certainly all around Australia, but it is all around the world. Fantastic idea. And I don't think that the inventor of it gets the credit that she should have. 40% of teachers want to quit the profession. Oh, see, I call it a profession. They don't treat it like a profession. But anyway, 40% want to quit. This is double what it was 2 years ago. But perhaps they should quit. Perhaps they should. And go into politics where you just might find yourself more comfortable, more satisfied. A big TV commercial campaign, which you might have seen, mounted by the TV free-to-air people. It's being launched to keep what they call a level playing field. Now, you got to think about this, because I'm not technically minded, so you can add that to the fact I can't spell. Anyway, when it comes to what we watch on television and where we watch it and how we watch it, they are worried that we are being funneled towards a pay or streaming television option. Well, that streaming industry, I don't know how they make a living, because I don't do any paid television. I just refuse to do that. I don't want to do that. But anyway, I know a lot of people do. It's all about how apparently the modern U-Butte TV set is made. And as I say, I don't quite understand it, but the free-to-air people, the 9s, the 7s, the 10s and the 2s, believe that when you turn on your television set, you are being unfairly channeled towards these other alternatives. So they're mounting a big campaign, which I guess the free-to-airs are paying for. I guess that's fair enough. Chris Bowen, Minister for Climate Change. Minister for Climate Change, for God's sake. You know that they've got a Minister for the Republic, and they have an Assistant Minister for the Republic. What Republic? Well, what's the point of having a Minister for Climate Change? Anyway, Chris Bowen, he was on Insiders yesterday, and I would have loved to have asked him. Of course, you wouldn't get asked this on the ABC. But here's my question. What part does Australia's 1% of global emissions play in climate change, and can you prove it? Chris, I'd love to know what you'd say. I'll bet... No, it'll never be asked, I know that. Never on the ABC, and probably the other people aren't capable already. Anyway, I'll bet you Chris Bowen's going to head off to the latest COP28. That's the climate change talk fest. You know, they've had 28 of these things, and they always have them in resorts. COP28, climate change talk fest. 70,000 people are going. 70,000 other gas baggers, ladies and gentlemen, all going off to Dubai, tourist resort. And I can't see the people of Dubai turning off their air conditioning for you. Not that you'd want it turned off, of course. Will the big polluters be there? Of course not. Can you see China and India and Indonesia and etc. turning up? No. They want to be lectured too. And they never will be there either. You see, their prosperity and internal popularity is all they care about. What will this COP28 achieve? They all fly in their private jets. Oh yes, they all have private jets. Private and chartered. It's all part of this disgraceful climate con, I call it, that these guys have managed to turn into an industry. It's all about catastrophizing, frightening the hell out of people. Now, you know, the sky's going to fall in. This is the end of the world as we know it. Do you remember the ozone layer stuff? You ever hear anyone today mention the ozone layer? They declared war on every can of hairspray, every can of fly spray. Now this is the greatest threat to world existence, they told us. An existentialist threat, whatever the hell that means. There is a hole in the ozone layer, and I remember they even showed us pictures. Put down that can. Now, it wasn't climate change, and it wasn't coal. It was chlorofluorocarbons. Whoa! Wow, chlorofluorocarbons. And that passed. No one ever mentions it anymore. Then there was more looming catastrophe with the millennium bug. The end of the world and the end of life as we know it. Banks will close, communications will fail, aeroplanes will fall out of the sky, missiles will launch themselves. World War III. Do you remember any of this? Not so long ago. And of course nothing happened. Nothing. Billions of dollars were wasted. And the year 2000 clicked over. Nothing happened. And you know what? No apologies. These catastrophizers go on to the next thing. We'll move on to climate change. No problem. It works every time. Should work this time. Now, if the government was serious in decarbonising Australia, it would embrace nuclear power. We have an abundance of uranium. But you see, this government, and maybe others as well, I don't know, but let's concentrate on this one because this is the one that's on the table. These guys are schizophrenic. What do I mean by that? Well, they're schizophrenic because it's no to cheap, available nuclear power, but yes to nuclear submarines with no thought as to what we do with the waste. And that's the same argument they have against nuclear power. But one's okay, one isn't. No to using coal here in Australia, but yes to selling it to any other big polluter who wants to buy it. Now this is stupid nonsense. And these people get elected. And we don't have a media that's going to stand them up against the wall and tell them exactly what we think of them. Which ain't much. And while we're on the subject of de-risking. I love the expression. How do you de-risk something? De-risking the investing in renewables. What investor in anything, I suggest to you, expects to get a government guarantee? I mean, look, you can invest in government bonds, and I'm not even sure with that, if you put the money in the bank, a percentage of it gets a bit of a government guarantee. But an investor comes along and puts skin in the game, and he risks that skin. What investor expects to get a government guarantee? I can't get over this. The government is going to actually underwrite big companies, speculators, with taxpayers' dollars to meet their, that is the government's, unnecessary, unrealistic, unaffordable goals for their green dream by 2030. Why? I guess they figure it won't happen otherwise. And here's the kicker, though. They have no idea what this is going to cost. And keep in mind, it's not going to cost them. It's going to cost us. I hope personally it'll cost this crowd government, cost them office. Renewables are too risky to attract investors. Right? That's the problem they're trying to solve. Maybe the investors have made the right judgment. Huh? Ever thought about that? If they won't put their money on the line, why should we, the taxpayer? I mean, how dare this or any government write a blank cheque using our money to pursue their pipe dream? That's disgraceful. History, you know, history's funny. History repeats itself. It's true, Gary Morgan was saying last Friday, we were talking around the dining room table, 9 to 12, jeremycordeaux.com, live streaming thing. He said to me, it's 1975 all over again. You see, most people don't remember 1975. The journalists probably weren't even born. Let me try and jog your memory here for a second, if I've got time, Pete.
Yeah.
Let me try and jog your memory. Whitlam. Wasn't quite 75, probably 74, maybe early 75, leading up to the dismissal. Rex Connor. RFX Connor. Francis Xavier Connor, I think his name was. He, too, had a brilliant idea. We won't just underwrite or guarantee or nationalise renewables. We will buy back the farm. Wow. Vision. Pay off the national debt. Enter the shady Pakistani financier, Mr. Kemlani, a name you might remember, who agrees to lend the Australian government. Jim Cairns was the treasurer. He agrees to lend, and he didn't have a penny. It was an amazing story. Didn't have a penny. He agrees to lend the Australian government $4 billion, which was our national debt. Which actually, when you think about it, is comparatively nothing. I don't know if I can do it right here, but I did Google to see what our national debt was today. Here, I got it here. Our national debt today is not $4 billion. It is $1,898.3 billion US dollars. That's just a shade under $1 trillion. Anyway, 4 billion must have seemed like a bit of a snap at the time. Our national debt, comparatively nothing. But then, of course, we had just gone through 30 years of good, stable, conservative government, and we didn't have the problems that Whitlam created in just 5 years, or 3 years actually. Anyway, once this crazy deal was exposed, it quickly unravelled, and the Whitlam government was effectively selling the country. That's effectively what he was doing. He was selling the country. Once that got out, I mean, even the left-wing journalists couldn't wear that. And it's a funny thing, though, of course, that all those people in the Whitlam government actually thought that they, too, were coming up with a good idea. Absolutely extraordinary. Now, before I do a couple of dates, and I leave you with your thoughts, Pete, have we got the Alan Jones bit that we can run?
Yes, we have.
Can we fit that in?
Yes, we'll take that on the end.
Yeah, it's about electric cars. I'm encouraged that other people think the same way, or that have the same scepticism that I have about electric cars. But if you have at least a moment, I really wish after the dates you'll stay to the end of that and absorb just exactly what a con the whole electric car thing really is, and how really big companies, wealthy, experienced, knowledgeable car manufacturers have been drawn into this, and of course governments as well. It'll open your eyes. I mean, I've tried to talk to you about it before, but I've never been able to do it as eloquently as Alan Jones.
I think if anyone's thinking about buying an electric car, they need to watch this.
Yes.
Because they will certainly rethink that
Oh,
decision.
wow. Yeah, no, you've got to do that. You've got to have a look at it. It's coming up. Just a few quick dates. November 27. Almost Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. Ernie Wise was born in Yorkshire. His real name was Ernie Wiseman, and he was the long-time partner of the great Eric Morecambe. Morecambe and Wise. Great talent. 1885, Alfred Nobel determined his will in Paris, and in part it read, oh God, it goes on for pages, but it says here, the capital, this is the guy who invented dynamite, and because it was a thing that blew people up and created all sorts of devastation, he wanted to do something, and that turned into being the Peace Prize. And he did good. The capital shall be invested by my executors in safe securities, and shall constitute a fund, the interest on which shall be annually distributed in the form of prizes to those people who, during the preceding year, shall have been confirmed as making some great contribution to mankind. And there was literature and physics and all sorts of things. God bless you, sir. What else? Lord Howard died, 64 years of age, at his ancestral home, Howard Castle, in York, near York in England. He was the former BBC chairman, and of course Howard Castle was where they filmed Brideshead Revisited, the television series, period costume. They had the largest period costume collection in England, and a rose garden to die for. Anyway, Lord Howard died in 1984. I don't know where the castle is now. Eddie Rabbit was born. Yeah, Eddie Rabbit. Love a Rainy Day. Was it? No, I Love a Rainy Night, wasn't it, Pete?
I think so, yes.
I Love a Rainy Night. He was born in 41. Danny DeVito was born in 1944. Bruce Lee was born in 1940. Simon Townsend, where is Simon these days? Anyway, he was born in 1945. Very, not sensational, but conspicuous, conscientious objector to going off to the Vietnam War, as I remember. John Laws got married to Caroline in 1976. She's gone to God. He's still going. He's, 88, John? Still on the air at 2SM? If he wasn't on the air at the same time I was live streaming on a Friday, I'd get him on the show. Anyway, Bing Crosby recorded Galway Bay in 1947. And if you remember the day for any reason, I hope it's a great day, or happy birthday, or happy wedding anniversary. Now, please, thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton and I'll be back. Believe in yourself. I'll leave you with the great Mr. Alan Jones.
Electric vehicles are the latest climate change fashion, except that a Norwegian shipping company has banned electric, hybrid and hydrogen cars from its ferries. After a risk analysis, it was concluded that the risk to the safety of the shipping fleet was too significant. If an electric vehicle catches fire, they said, the fire can no longer be extinguished. And they cited last February a ship with e-vehicles on board. The vehicles caught fire. The fire couldn't be extinguished. The ship sank.
An improperly disconnected car battery. That's what the NTSB says sparked a massive fire that caused an explosion aboard a car carrier ship at Blunt Island last year, injuring multiple firefighters.
An electric vehicle is thought to have started a fire on board a cargo ship carrying thousands of cars. One crew member was killed and others injured.
And that's what happened recently at Sydney Airport, which is with these lithium-ion batteries.
What we got is the casing for a fully electric vehicle, heavily impacted by fire. That does appear to be the area of origin.
Nightmare for a local family. They say an electric car sparked this fire that destroyed their home.
4 people died from this fire at an e-bike repair shop.
Fire gets into the battery pack. They do something which is called thermal runaway, and if it gets into the battery pack, it takes up to 40 times more water than an average car fire.
Even when the immediate threat is put out, Austin Fire says there's still the potential for a fire to reignite with an electric vehicle.
A Tesla in Scottsdale catches on fire not once, but twice.
So, has Bowen presented us with a risk analysis in relation to purchasing, driving, charging electric vehicles and disposing of the batteries? Nothing. In the first 6 months of this year, there has been a 20% increase in lithium battery-related fires in New South Wales.
We are seeing a lot more incidents in and around lithium-ion batteries.
The cause of the fire was a lithium-ion battery that had failed.
The suspected cause, a lithium battery-powered e-scooter that was being charged.
The different marks on the wall is where the battery is actually exploded.
Now, these batteries are sometimes thrown into rubbish bins instead of being disposed of safely.
It was an explosion and it was involving expired lithium chips. The process they were using was putting these chips in a bucket and putting some water in the bucket to actually make an oxidisation process occur.
The Fire and Rescue New South Wales Acting Deputy Commissioner of Field Operations, Trent Curtin, has said that firefighters were responding to an average of more than 3 battery fires a week from in-home charging issues or incorrect disposal. I mean, surely to goodness know-alls like Bowen should be fully informing users of electric vehicles as to where the risks lie. He won't do that because he's ideologically committed to getting rid of petrol-fired cars and forcing us into electric vehicles.
Now is the time for the conversation on how we increase the uptake of electric and low emissions vehicles.
Mind you, he doesn't tell us where the electricity is going to come from, nor the risk. Now, ignorance can sometimes be forgiven. Arrogance from people like Bowen can't be. These people, I've told you over and over again, are dangerous.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.